Go off of coding and the development. So I know that you are currently working on a project around this area. So can you tell me a little bit about not necessarily coding, but mathematics in general?
Yeah. So to go back to what Xavier said real quick, like some of the people working on this like intuitive robotic programming are mathematicians at NIST that work on category theory.
Okay.
So category theory is a field of math that like in its most general state just studies like processes and transformations between them. And so I've been working on a research project recently studying like a category where you study data sets and the machine learning algorithms between them. Yeah, I'm not really sure what I told you before or what you'd like me to say now, but like, so something I'm seeing recently is, so like in the programming world, people look up to something called the Semantic Web,
okay,
which is just like an idea of like the internet that really understands what you're talking about. And it turns out that like when people study the semantics of programming languages and computer programs, like these really abstract fields like category theory and type theory come up, which is just like super general field of study about like what things are, and it's almost like metaphysical.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like I think it's really fascinating that people talk about like just like what a program does, which like you would think would require code, but you understand it by like super abstract math that like you don't learn like in college, even like math majors. So this like foundational math is teaching us about like how systems in like the practical world like operate with each other.
Okay.
And I think one of the big reasons why that's important, how it dribbles down to engineering, is because category theory is fairly new.
Yeah.
As a study, but what it's basically doing is creating a new infrastructure for thinking about a lot of the problems that the math community faces.
Yeah.
In such a way that it becomes more accessible to tackle them in different ways. So because of you have category theory, you're now able to do this intuitive programming through diagrams, whereas before you didn't have that framework to go off of. So the cool part about category theory, in my opinion, is the infrastructure that's creating for these new possibilities. And for me, it's in engineering and industry, but also in just pure math.
Yeah. So would you say that there's a lot of new developments in math that will slowly come to life because not only just what you're doing, but other research that's being done in the mathematics field? Because a lot of times when you talk to like an everyday person, right, they hear what math is and they think that math is absolute and this is what exists. So what I'm kind of getting at is, would you say that there's a lot of things that still need to be redefined because they've been defined prior, but maybe not in the right way?
Yeah, and it's already coming play into industry. Like there's not many applied category theorists.
Yep.
There's like one big group with like Dr. John Bays at the university here in Riverside at UCR, and then there's another one at MIT. But like there's like few research groups, but there's already like a lot of startups that like are applied category theory startups, and there's like venture funds for applied category theory. And the big product that comes to mind is one called the categorical query language,
okay,
by Connexus AI, which is like a functional categorical way of operating with databases.
Okay.
That's backed up by a lot of the category theory work that goes into reasoning about databases. Because there's like very simple problems with databases. Like if you try to look at something, but then you change your mind about what you wanted to see, like you can't just change what you requested. Like you have to start completely from scratch again. Like, which is like lame. But like we're able to study like some of the properties of these problems with category theory and use them with the categorical query language, which is like a different way of operating with databases.
I think that's actually really important because now that, especially with data growth in general and the amount of data storage that every company has to have, and to make that into business intelligence, you need really smart systems that can actually pull that and actually query it in and then get you the outputs that you want. Yep. And I think that's actually a really good point that you brought up, is when you query one time, you can't just change your mind about it. And I think that's a big problem with like dashboard systems as well, because when you pull the information to create that dashboard to show the data that you want, you can't just I'm gonna change it up right now. So I think that's definitely a good approach that you're doing. I think it's gonna solve a lot of problems. So that's awesome to hear that somebody's researching stuff that is too technical for me.